Welcome into the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a great show ahead today. Had the pleasure of reading a brand new book that is pretty awesome, folks. We're going to get into Bigfoot, Sasquatch. We're going to talk about the proper plural of Bigfoot today, which I'm glad to talk about. We're going to actually get into comics for a brief moment today, which I love talking about as well, with our guest today, David Eller and Janice Nolan. Two of our guests today, which are both experienced in this field, quite experienced in this field, and we're going to talk about both of them as well. The book does an extensive study of an area that, and this study itself is quite extensive, and there's some interesting theories that both David and Janice have that I want to get into. It's really a deep dive. This isn't a book that if you're, let's say, a novice in the field, that you probably want to skip over. I mean, this really is an intense book where if you want to get into it and really talk about the ins and outs of what you believe as far as Bigfoot and how things operate as far as Bigfoot goes. You really have to keep an open mind as far as this goes too. You can't be a firm one side or the other. When it comes to Bigfoot, you really have to keep an open mind and follow both their research here, because I truly do believe that David's given you and Janice has given you all their data to come up with your own conclusion here. And I really do love this book. I really do think you guys need to pick up this book and take a look at what's being produced here. It's called The Pagoda. And let me tell you a little bit about our guests. We'll bring him in here. David Eller has spent over 30 years as a cryptozoologist and monster hunter. His travels across North America, Canada, and the Yucatan and various European countries has resulted in numerous encounters with the paranormal and unexplained. He was born with a natural curiosity, has spent a substantial portion of his years seeking answers to the most perplexing of questions. A well-known speaker, David regularly discusses his experiences and theories as a lecturer and appearing on quite a few podcasts, radio broadcasts, television, news, and talk shows, and at paranormal-themed conferences and events. His honest accounts of his personal encounters with the paranormal and the supernatural have made him a much sought-after speaker. Now, Janice Nolan is our other guest today. She's a paranormal researcher who's focused on the phenomena of Bigfoot creatures and dogmen for over 15 years. She's worked in the field weekly, rattlesnake boots on the ground for most of those 15 years, and has numerous encounters. She's also worked as a camera operator and lead investigator on a series of documentaries about those cryptids. An Auburn graduate, she's a partner in Pursue, which is paranormal unit for the research and study of unexplained events. As a researcher and documentarian, Janet is working on a number of related projects and documentaries with David. And, of course, they've both released David's new book called The Pagoda, which we have a link to in the description of this program. That book, by the way, is for individuals who are already somewhat familiar with the Bigfoot phenomena, but want to learn more. We're going to learn more today with both. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in for the first time to Darkness Radio, David Eller and Janice Nolan. Folks, welcome in.
Hey, thank you.
Hi.
It's good to be here.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Let's start it off nice and easy. You're both located in the Nashville area, and an area of the country which, let's face it, although Bigfoot seems to make its appearance, we're going to get the plural issue out of the way here off the top of the show right away. Although Bigfoot seems to make its presence known in a lot of different hotspots throughout the area. Tell me a little bit about the area of the country that you're in. And I want to start, you know what, David, I'm going to put you to the side for a minute here. I want to start with Janice for a second. In your area of the country, Janice, where tends to be the hottest of hotspots? I know South Carolina tends to have some hotspots in there, but as far as Tennessee goes, where there in Tennessee do you tend to find the more hotter of hotspots?
I tell you what, I had lived near the Chattanooga area in a place called Ottawa, Tennessee. And I just moved from there to Alabama because my grandson was born. I just became a grandmother.
Congratulations.
you. And some of the hot spots that I was investigating in Tennessee, now this was before David and I joined up, was over in the Cades Cove area of the Great Smoky Mountains National Forest, and then also over in the Ocoee National Forest. Now, every one of my Bigfoot, I guess you would say, habituation sites of places you go to like every week, those were actually in Alabama, where I have lived for, goodness, well over 30 years. And then I moved to Tennessee. I love Tennessee. Like there's like the whole state of Tennessee is so squatchy. It's got the most caves in the state of Tennessee than any other state in the United States. So I think that right there helps it be a lot more squatchy. Of course, the most reported sightings are going to be coming from over there in California, in that area, but goodness, Florida's not too far away from it. And just a couple of weeks ago, David and I were down in the Everglades investigating the skunk ape. So this man has me all over the place.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
So I'll throw back to you, David, and then I want you to weigh in here, Janice.
Okay.
When you go to investigate these different areas, like you mentioned, the Smoky Mountains, or you may mention cave areas, or you may mention these different places. Of course, in the book, David, you mentioned braiding of different trees, and you mentioned different structures. Obviously, Bigfoot isn't staying in these structures. These structures mean something different. But are they staying in these caves, or where are they making their homes? If we're not finding things like skeletons, or we're not finding remains or things like that, where are these things making their home?
I think if you think about these creatures like bears are opportunistic. They don't have to sleep in anything. They can sleep out in the weather. But see, that's the problem. We have to adjust our thinking on what these creatures are. And that gets me into the side A, side B thing, which we can discuss later.
Sure.
These structures that I have found are definitely not a habitat, let's say. They're not weather resistant. They are porous, you might say. The wind goes through rain, snow. So I don't believe they stay in these structures, but I think that these structures could be, well, I think if, as you read in the book, I think they could be some sort of art. I'm looking at these things as an artist looks at other artists' work, and I'm seeing Aboriginal artwork. I do also believe that they are constructed as cribs, where they set the young ones in and say, we're going to go foraging, you stay here. And there's a number of reasons I believe that, but if I do believe that, then it would seem to follow that I would probably see a young one associated with one of those structures, which I did, and I talk about it in the book.
Yeah.
So I don't think they are like anywhere where they stay for any length of time. It's some place that they visit, or they make these things as a way of saying we're in the area. This is us, and they braid them. They braid these things together. There's no nails, no string, no wire, no twist ties. Nothing keeps these things together except the braids themselves. They're very beautiful. When I first discovered them, they were beautiful. Now nature is taking them back, so they are starting to fall apart. And I'm hoping to take Janice to see these for the first time sometime this week. So she'll let you know what she thinks.
See, I haven't even been over there yet. My places, which I had basically these same kind of like braidings. My group, we called it the Blair Witch structure. And this was over in Bankhead National Forest in Alabama. And you were asking earlier about some of the most squatchiest places from where, I've been in the South over here. North Georgia Woods, my goodness, David Beccaro, who owns, the Bigfoot Expedition Bigfoot, he could tell you that whole area where he lives and with his museum is all just completely squatchy. And Now, parts of Alabama, especially around Bankhead, have been very, very active in the past for me. And this is where I saw pagoda-like activity in Bankhead National Forest. And so when David and I became friends, oh my goodness, it's been a year ago to like almost today. That's so weird. Yeah. Yeah. And so we've been friends for a while talking about it, and we're like, wow, we've had a lot of the same like stuff happen, you know, and basically had some of the same theories, because both of us started on side A, but going, this is a North American ape that just hasn't been discovered before, and you know, we're going to find it one day and blah blah blah. But you know, we quickly learned, like over the years, oh my goodness, 30 years for him, 15 for me. And so going out into the woods, as I say, rattlesnake boots on the ground, you better have those rattlesnake boots on the ground, because you know, you're not going to get any action if you're not actually out there doing anything. And I'm talking about like camping overnight, my goodness, going hiking, you know, seeing where the caves are, where the water is, where quartz crystals. A lot of my very highly active areas where I've had tons of activity have all had water, caves, and quartz. And so, and also good food supply, you know, deer, escargot, fish. Yes. So
one of the interesting things in the book, and I know we're kind of jumping into things and not really setting things up. We'll set things up here in just a second, David, and we'll explain to people when you say a pagoda type area, what exactly that means. But and we'll do that service for the audience here in a moment. But I want to talk about that kind of baiting, for lack of a better term, baiting a Sasquatch or baiting a Bigfoot. There's an interesting thing that you put in the book, David, and that's this. At one point, you're comparing literally apples to oranges, and you're saying, why is a Bigfoot going after an apple and not necessarily an orange? And you're kind of espousing, well, it's going after the apples, but it's not necessarily going after the oranges. And you're wondering why, right? Whether it's is it because the apple is more native to the area and it's something it's more used to, and the orange isn't necessarily native to the area?
Right.
And it got me thinking, because, and again, my audience is familiar with the fact that I happen to have wild chipmunks that are buddies. Like they're not my pet, they're not my pets, but we have this relationship, right? I mean, they're not tame by any means, but I feed them and they know that I name them. They have names, and they come up and get food from me and stuff like that. And we have this relationship, right? And in that, when I try to give them something that isn't necessarily something that they could procure in the wild, like say I try to give them an orange, well, they're not crazy about it, because it's not something that they could get. But they love blueberries, because that's something that could grow wild here. Right. They'll eat an apple, but if it's too far off the beaten path, well, they kind of go, nah, that's all right. Yeah. And your chapter got me thinking about that, if it is too far off the beaten path, like I don't think I could go out there with a pastrami sandwich and, Spud the chipmunk will go, yeah, pastrami, sure, why not? Knock one back. Yeah. I don't think Spud would be into that.
Yeah, well, in saying that, it would be interesting. I don't know if anyone's ever done a study on skunk ape and their feeding habits. Would a skunk ape, since it's in the Florida area, would they gravitate toward oranges? I don't know, but that's a good question.
Yeah,
we need to answer that question. We need to answer that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's the way I feel about it, is that it has to be something that they're semi-familiar with.
And I'm wondering, that, like you just said, is it when you go to Florida, if you do use some of the more, domestic, local, flora, fauna, fruit, sure. Seeds, whatever it is that you're using, maybe is that some of the more natural stuff, is that better to use than maybe taking a slab of ribs from the local grocery store and nailing it to a tree like maybe some of the TV guys do,
right?
To lure them in.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. She's writing it down right now. That's something that we can definitely research.
Yeah, and look into.
But the odd thing is to hook on to what you're just saying. When I would bait or whatever. I hate to use that word, but
I know it's the only word that really
gift I think is the one everyone likes to use. But even that is kind of weird. Are we presenting them with sacrifices? Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird. There's some theories about that too. But in the book, I tell about when I was gifting these apples, and then at one point they gifted me back a squirrel that had been stripped completely of all hair, skin and everything, just ripped it off. And that's when I began to really wonder about the language, because we talk to these things with wood knocks and howls and whatever, but we don't know what we're saying, and we don't know what they say back. There is a communication there, but we don't know what we're saying. And after I was so shocked by what happened there that I walked away, because I didn't know what they wanted me to do with it. Was I supposed to pick it up and take it with me? Or were they saying, you're feeding us, we're going to feed you? Was that what they were saying? Was it a faux pas not to take that with me? I don't know. That's the thing. We have to figure out some language here. We have to figure out where we are. And I think it's the only way that we can move forward is to figure out some sort of language communication.
I can kind of answer that a little bit, but I don't know if from an animal standpoint I can answer it, because at the end of the season, which we're coming up to now with my chipmunks, okay. I have a chipmunk, Spud, who I'm very, very close with, and people sometimes think this is ridiculous, but you have to keep an open mind. Spud is 4 years old now, will be 5 next year. And every single season, at the end of the season, Spud leaves me a small pile of sunflower seeds.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I've never, and the other chipmunks don't do this, but keep in mind when Spud's first year of life, Spud was behind in collecting seeds because all the other chipmunks were forcing Spud away from the dish. So I kept feeding Spud. Spud was the last one. She was the last one who was up and awake. And so I kept giving her food and feeding her so that she would be able to, I say feeding, but I kept providing her seeds so that she could collect and get caught up before she went into torpor. So she was grateful for that. I think she always remembers that. And then there was a second incident where before she had just given birth, and she was dehydrated and lacking nutrients. So I gave her blueberries and water to bring her back. She was going to expire, essentially. So with that bit of water and folic acid, she came back and basically it saved her. So I think she remembers that. So she at the end of every season gives me it's kind of like a little thank you. It's just a thank you. Thank you for what you've done for me this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. What did you do with it? What do you do with the gifts?
I put it in a little medicine bottle because it's enough to fill a medicine bottle, and I keep it. So, yeah.
Well, see, I'm really into imitative hunting like Native Americans used to do. They would dress as a deer to hunt deer, So I'm wondering what would happen if you just kind of bent down and started eating those seeds to let, it sounds stupid, but we're both into, it doesn't matter how crazy it sounds, because we're trying to get curiosity. We're trying to elicit curiosity. So be as crazy as you can be.
Right.
Who cares what Joe Blow thinks, So it would really be cool to see what would happen if you just bit down on your all fours and started eating. I think that would be cool, and maybe that's what I should have done.
With a squirrel?
That's what I should have done with the squirrel.
Hey,
who knows?
Maybe,
I don't know.
Or maybe at least at least show thanks by picking up the squirrel and taking it. I mean,
Right.
so that the Squatch sees that you're taking this.
Yeah.
So then that way they know that you're thankful for taking the actual object
Yeah.
with. As long as you take and remove, and they know that you're grateful for taking it, then that way they know that you're giving, you're taking. There's an exchange there.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I don't know.
Maybe we can experiment when we go out there. We'll
What makes this so bad is both of us are vegetarians. So if that happens again, we're going to be so grossed out. Ew. Yeah, some poor little squirrel had to die for that for no reason.
Yeah, and I was so shocked I didn't even get a picture. You know, my book has lots of pictures, and I was like, why didn't I get a picture of that? You know, but that tells you why there aren't a lot of pictures of Bigfoot creatures, you know, because you're so shocked sometimes you lose your mind. You don't do what you set out to do. And there are other reasons, but we'll get into that later. But,
Absolutely.
but there's a lot of craziness about the whole picture Bigfoot thing, you know. I don't know.
But that particular apples, oranges, that whole that whole native what would they eat, what would they not eat thing was interesting to me as far as the book The Pagoda goes. Now let's get into that term, the pagoda. What exactly does it mean? How did that term come up in the book? I know what it means, of course, because I've read the book. But explain to our audience, where does the pagoda come from?
That comes from the very first one that I saw. I saw this structure made of multiple trees, bent over, some to the center, some all the way over to the ground on the other side, and they were all braided. And basically, it's like a wooden igloo. And the first thing that came into my mind, I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, well, that's just like, you could put that in your garden. That's like a garden pagoda. And that name just seemed so appropriate. So appropriate to what I was looking at and how beautifully, artistically it was done. And then at that point, I got up on it and I began to look at the braids, and I was completely blown away. And it's like, this is like a garden pagoda or something you'd put in your garden. And I had a guy argue with me one time, said it's not a pagoda, it's a there's another term. Oh, I can't pick it up.
Trellis.
No, it's like a Peralta or something like that. But it's like, well, I call it a pagoda. You know, that's what I call it. You know, you can call it whatever you want, but this was the first thing that hit me when I looked at it. So that's where I got that name. And as I began to find the other two, the name just seemed to fit. They're just cool, weird structures out here in the middle of the woods, you know. It's like, where do these things come from and why do they do them? And the whole thing is like a huge, big question mark, and I love it, you know.
Now, there was something interesting as you're noticing these pagodas that are being built and that are being put out there in the woods. You're at one point, as you first stumble upon them, you realize that, you know, I've got to make some sort of contact. And as you go to make some sort of contact, we've kind of already started to talk about making that offering or starting to make that first offering. You find out, though, as you go to start making that first offering, that the first one isn't necessarily successful, and you got a little bit of blowback from Bigfoot, didn't you?
Oh, well, a couple times, yeah. But which incident are you referring to?
The cairn, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But behind one of the pagodas, I began to stack rocks because it has been reported many times these creatures will stack rocks, and they're called cairns. Many ancient societies have used these things as markers. So I thought, well, let me just mark this. And these were sturdy. When I got done with them, they were sturdy. And I would put one up, I would leave, I would come back the next time, and it was just trashed. And multiple times I would stack these things up. I would come back the next day or whenever, they're destroyed. And I can't think of any creature that would destroy. A squirrel wouldn't do it. A fox wouldn't do it. Deer wouldn't do it, I wouldn't think. Why would they destroy a cairn? So this happens so many times. I think it was them. Now, this is just me. But I think it was them saying, we've already marked our artwork. We don't need anyone marking our stuff, because every one of these pagodas have what I call axes. There are stones that have been set between two saplings, twisted and braided at the top, so they actually look like an axe sitting on its head. Every one of these pagodas have been marked in that way, and I truly believe that is their way of saying, this is done. This one is finished. This is our tribe. This is me. I don't know what it's saying, but it's like it's marked. And I think they were a little bit upset that someone had come in and put another marker.
Ah, okay.
That's just my thinking,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot about this whole area, this whole situation that remains a huge question mark. But here and in other parts of the country, I'm trying to answer some of those questions. And I think even in the book, I say this is a book of questions. It's not a book of answers.
Right.
It's there. I have more questions now than when I was at the pagoda site investigating every week. Some of those questions maybe have been answered, but many of them haven't. I think that we need to go in when we're researching areas. We need to just go in open-minded, complete blank slate, and see what we find. And if we can kind of put pieces together, maybe we'll come up with some answers. But it's going to take more than one or two people actively investigating. I mean, you got all these people on TV. I'll be like Neil, you know,
Okay.
TV,
Yeah.
you know,
TV. Right.
yeah. Neil Adams was the very same way. He was like, but you see a lot of these people on TV and they just don't investigate the way we do. I mean, we're absolutely, totally serious all the time. And a lot of these other guys, I don't know, but it's going to take a lot of people that are completely dedicated and willing to go out when it's freezing cold sometimes. You know, it's not Bigfoot, Sasquatch hunting. It's not comfortable.
Oh, no. We was in the National Everglades just a couple of weeks ago, all the way down in Flamingo, Florida. And we were tromping out in the swamp out there, and we come up across like these blades of grass, the kind that if you go the wrong way, they'll cut your fingers, you know. And we were going through there, and we got all kind of chiggers on us.
Yeah.
And our ankles are still like kind of messed up from that, you know. And that was just 2 weeks ago. But yeah, we get boo-boos, but it's worth it. Like, I have one on my elbow where I got a spider bite out in the Everglades too. And I never even seen that thing bite me, but I know it's a spider bite.
You know, that, you know, the weather, rain, sleet, you know, it's okay. We're now doing a documentary about some Nessie type creatures in Darien, Georgia.
Really?
And these things tend to show up when it's cold. So during this documentary, we've already filmed some stuff, but we are going to have to go out when it's cold, wet and cold, maybe, to have experiences with some of these things. So you just have to set your mind to doing it, you know, and we're both retired now. I retired earlier this year, and I convinced Janice to retire. And so we're just out there hunting monsters 24/7. So we have said we're going to be uncomfortable. There's times when we're going to be hating life, but we may be coming up with some answers. And that's our goal, you know, coming up with answers.
I don't think that's your average retirement plan. I don't think most.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of people talk to us about it and say, oh, man, I wish we could do that. But, you know, it takes commitment. It really takes commitment, you know, and that's what I plan to do the rest of my life. I figure I've got 20 years, maybe, you know.
Well, so you better have more than that.
Yeah, I was gonna. Well, you know, if you stay active and you're out there chasing stuff, I think you got more than 20. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Call us back in 20 years and see if we answer.
If my butt's glued to a seat, I don't have 20. I'll tell you that much. I'll be sedentary. I got to get up and move myself.
There you go. Sure. There you go. Sure. Well, you can always go out with us if you just want to.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has their limits. You let us know your limits.
Well, I'm not going to get cut up by grass and bit by chiggers. So you lost me at that. So
we'll put you at a certain spot with a walkie-talkie, and we'll triangulate.
That sounds good.
Oh my goodness, we had alligators out there too.
Oh,
but the spiders were so big. There are some spiders like the orb weavers at night, because we usually go out during the nighttime. And so we're going down this trail and we're looking up in the tree line about 10 foot up. There's these elaborate webs like Charlotte that, would make with these huge orb weavers on it. And we're like, just don't look up.
Spiders I'm good with. It's the alligator. I'm the Carl Weathers guy in the Adam Sandler movie who keeps losing his hand to alligators.
Right.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, but the Pagoda site is known for its spider action, and there were times across the trail. I mean, it was the web was it was taller than me, wider than I could reach both sides, and all the way down to the ground. And that was web after web after web after web. It's not just one. And you have to get used to that sometimes. But that Pagoda site is probably the most spidery area I've ever been in. And so, you have to get used to all the crazy stuff.
I guess, right. Huh? Well, maybe 20 years is what you guys got left. Maybe I misinterpreted that situation. I just tell you what, let's take our break here. We'll reassess how many years exactly you have left. And then when we come back, a couple of different things I want to tackle. One, let's get the proper plural of Bigfoot, big feet, big footies, whatever this is. Let's come back and talk about language and the language barrier. And we'll talk about samurai language. We'll get that down. And let's also talk about, when we come back, some other things when it comes to this investigation and the Pagoda. It's an intriguing book, folks. It's a really good book. It's called The Pagoda. We have a link in the description of this program. We want you to go check it out. David Eller is the author of this great book. And again, I want you to check it out, folks. It is an intense book. It's a long book at that too. And it's a whole study. Was this over a year, David?
The research was over a year. Yeah. And I had to put in every detail I could because I wanted to be honest with everybody. This is what I discovered. This is what I experienced. One of the final chapters was about the young one that I saw. I wasn't even going to include that chapter because I didn't want people to go, well, he's just trying to sensationalize this whole story by talking about this. And I just didn't want to do it. But then as I was finishing up, I said, I've got to tell this one last thing because it happened. This was part of the adventure. So screw everybody. I've got to tell this part of the story, So yeah, it's a totally honest book.
There you go. David Eller and Janice Nolan, my guests. We'll talk more about the Pagoda when we come back right here on the best in paranormal programming. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal programming. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guests are David Eller and Janice Nolan. The book is called The Pagoda. It's a good one, folks. And it deals with an entire year in this area in Nashville in which David has done extensive research, not just a little bit of research, not just a skosh of research, but an immersive a bit of research there in this area, having to do with Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and an intense amount of study having to do with the subject. And I want to get to, first of all, before we really jump back in, start talking language and samurai language having to do with these creatures. And then something also that I want to tackle in this back half of the program, I believe a theory having to do with, is it your son who's a pastor, David?
No,
Nephew, right?
my nephew. Yes.
We'll talk about the theory he had. It's an intriguing theory. I want to talk about that as well on the back half here. I want to get the plural out of the way here. This is the thing that drives me nuts. It's been driving me nuts for 10 years.
Right.
The proper plural of Bigfoot.
Well, the problem is there's no consensus. That's the problem. Okay.
Oh, I don't know. I
But
think I got one. But you go ahead.
In my world, in my vernacular, I think whether you're speaking singularly or plurally, it should be Bigfoot. It's like deer. You have one deer or two deer.
Right.
Okay,
That's right.
That's my thinking.
That's
big
right.
Big feet. You hear people on TV say that. That just sounds goofy and clunky.
Yes.
It's just, it doesn't work to me.
That's right.
I think Bigfoot should apply to singular or plural.
And,
yeah.
And David, that's proper English. Is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay, cool. I'm glad we got that settled. All right.
See, we've worked out the world's problems. We can all go
There
home.
we go. Yeah. Right. Yay.
But you get people who go Bigfoots. Bigfoots sounds clunky too. I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that is.
And the same way with the word Sasquatch.
Right.
Sasquatch, singular or plural. You know, Sasquatches sounds
No.
wrong. It's just, yeah. So now we all have to get together and decide that that's the way we're all going to say it. Otherwise, we're all saying different words, and it makes us look like we don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem, you know. So we really need to get together.
Right. Can you take a field seriously if they can't get together and agree on what you should call the genome? Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
There it is right there.
Yeah.
And there's a big argument right there that we have to have with everybody. But, you know, it'll never be, there will never be a consensus, but there should be.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That just, yeah. Every time I hear, if I watch a podcast, see a podcast, hear a podcast, and I hear, the minute I hear someone go Bigfoots, I go,
yeah.
And I turn it off.
To bank off that, the words is and are. You know, people say, well, Bigfoot is, that's like saying lion is, horses is,
right.
You know, so if they're plural, if there's more than one, which we know there are,
yeah,
we should be saying are instead of Bigfoot are.
Right.
So you've got to use that singular plural Bigfoot with are.
Yes.
And that's a tough one.
Right.
People just don't get that one.
Right.
So there is some language weirdness. So I try to take care of that in the book. The way I write in the book is the way that is comfortable for me, and it includes what we just talked about.
Right. Right. Thank you for that, by the way. Thank you. Yeah. It's because I cringe every time I hear it. It's one of those things where I almost, at times when I go to do a Bigfoot Sasquatch show, I cringe before I go to do the show because I know it's going to come up.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Okay, let's take this a little bit farther. I think the way you verbalize it shows you where your head is. It shows you how you truly think about these things. And I have heard a couple of very well-known researchers that you see every week. They will say stuff like, Bigfoot is here, as though there's just one. Bigfoot is here. Now, he could have said, a Bigfoot is here.
Right. Yeah.
Or Bigfoot are here. But I mean, this is one of the major guys that people bow down to. And he's not even getting his vernaculars correct, you know, and it shows where your head really is. Do you really think there's more than one, or do you really think there's just one? And it confuses people, and that's petty on my part. It's petty.
No.
It's a pet peeve, you know.
That's
but
the thing, though.
I think if you've got a national stage, you need to be speaking in the right vernacular.
That's right.
And that's just me.
That's right. Well,
Call me a jerk.
No, but here's the thing, David. Here's the thing. Because you've got not only people who are based and steeped in science, but you have regular people who are looking at this program and going, I don't know if I believe this. Pardon my language here. Sorry, Janice. Pardon my language here. But you have people going, I don't know if I believe this crap or not. Right?
Yeah.
And,
right. No, exactly.
And they're trying to see if they're putting it on a scale, right? They've got this scale that they're putting it on, and they're saying, okay, if I believe it or not, and they're trying to see if you have any authenticity to you, right? And how they judge whether you're authentic or not, and whether you're an authority figure, is how you look, how you speak, how you act, right? And the minute you get on there and you say Bigfoots,
right,
it comes across stupid.
Yeah, totally.
You just took away any credibility you have.
Right, I'm with you. Absolutely
right?
with you.
I mean, you could show up in a white lab coat, right? You could have a diploma on the wall, but the minute you say Bigfoot, you're done.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah, you're
Thank
done.
you.
You're done. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Okay, we can move on from that. I'm with you, David. That's one of the biggest pet peeves I have. One of the biggest.
Yeah. I mean, I even did a chapter. On that. That's how important it is to me.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Whatever.
Right. I want to talk about language for a second, because it's with a lot of researchers that I have on the program, people who have even had experiences with Bigfoots on the program. See, I just want to throw it in there. I'll ask them, have you ever heard a Bigfoot, a singular one, if you've had an experience? Have you ever heard a Bigfoot verbalize when you've had that experience? Has that ever said anything to you other than a growl or a roar? Or even, have you heard two of them talking to each other?
I have not. I believe Janice has.
Okay.
I have gotten the screams, the yells, the growls, the breathing that sounds like Darth Vader. They want you to hear them. They want to scare you out of the woods. So I have heard all of those type of things. I personally have never heard any of the samurai chatter that Ron Moorhead recorded.
Yep.
I personally have never heard that, although we do that out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of our things. Vocalizations out in the field is one of our things. And it takes both of us to do that sometimes. Like, we will do the long call. And I realized that I've heard the bell tone in Washington. I heard a bell tone response, and that's something that humans can't do. There's like 3 different sounds coming out of something's throat. And I realized that a human can't do that. That's why when Janice and I hooked up, we actually do that together. And we will do the samurai chatter together. But to answer your question, I never have. I believe Janice has heard that.
As far as samurai chatter, on numerous occasions in the North Georgia woods where it's extremely active, and also in Bankhead, I have. The former group I was with, we have gotten numerous occasions where we've had disembodied voices, things coming into the campground at night when we're asleep. There's been times when I feel like, especially early on in this investigation in Bankhead, it was kind of like targeting me. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I'm a female. I'm a little bit more easily approachable than, say, a male, and so I was hearing all kinds of mimicry. I was hearing voices, and I couldn't make out what it was saying. Very similar to what Ron Moorhead got with the samurai chatter. You're like, I know I hear vowels. I know I hear somebody talking, and I just can't understand what they're saying. Now, that's happened with me numerous times. Goodness, and even getting things on audio. That's one of the things that I learned the hard way through investigating. I'm a videographer, so right. I'm the camera girl for making documentaries for some of these Bigfoot things and shows. And so, not the big shows, okay? I'm not not saying that. But I've been out there and we've actually, heard these things. And I've made the mistake of, oh my gosh, I don't have my audio on. Let me turn it on. As soon as you turn it on, it stops, And so now whenever I go out in the field, wherever we're going anywhere, day, night, I've got my little audio on. Before I get out of the vehicle, I got that sucker recording because there's been so many times that, I haven't been mic'd up or whatever, and I've missed all of these, most all of these audios phenomenon that's happening. Samurai chatter, mimicry, animal mimicry, when it's at night and you shouldn't be hearing a crow, right above your head, and just really weird, strange sounds. That's why it's really important to make a spot that has, like, say, Bigfoot activity, a habituation area where you go back over and over and over and over again, so you can learn what the local flora and fauna sound like. So what the seasonal changes happen. So where what's going on. Because if you go into an area you're not very familiar with, a little mouse, I just messed that up. A little mouse runs across like the woods, with some leaves, and you think Bigfoot's coming at you, So you got to know what's around in the area. I know muskrats got me one time. I was like, there's something in the water, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, ends up being just a muskrat. And so you have to be very familiar with your area and know what's going on day and night. Mm-hmm. And so that's another one of the, get them rattlesnake boots to the ground, see what's going on. You can't just go into one area for 30 minutes, okay, and go, okay, now we got enough for this documentary, let's go.
Right.
Okay, wait a minute. David's book, The Pagoda, he was there for a whole year, and goodness, one of my sites, it's been well over 12 years, going back. And so you have to get them used to you so that they will actually come up to you, and you don't have to do anything. This is one of the things I've learned the hard way too. You don't have to do fancy things, knocking on trees, doing things like that. They will actually come up to your campground. You're around the campfire, you're making s'mores, they're going to come up. And one of the things that I've also learned is they come up when you first get there, they're going to be on you. And when you're about to leave, they're on you too. And especially if they don't want you in a certain area, they want to usher you out. That gets really interesting. But to answer your question, yes, I've heard numerous times in numerous different states, different vocal patterns and mimicry and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm curious, Janice, because if you work this area for 12 years, I know, and again, I'm gonna relate it to my wildlife here, because I have a little relationship, a little ecosystem here with blue jays and chipmunks and these little animals that, the blue jays here will squawk at me when I come out because they know they're going to get peanuts and seeds, right?
Right.
So they say good morning to me, and they know that I'm coming out, right? So mm-hmm. I know about that whole immersing yourself in an ecosystem because mm-hmm. you become part of it, right? And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
So much like that, you've become part of that ecosystem. Every time you step into that ecosystem, you're immersed. You're a part of it. And I'm sure David knows from that year in the Pagoda, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He's immersed in it. He becomes part of it. So you can't make a step in that ecosystem without everything in it knowing that you're there. And you guys know that, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that's what people who go out for a couple hours into the woods, they're blissfully unaware of, is that they've stepped into it. It's almost like stepping into someone's bloodstream. It's not, you're the piece that everything is flowing around, right? You're the stick in the river. Everything is flowing around you at that point. You're the obstruction, and unless you mold into everything and flow along with everything, you're an obstruction. So with that in mind, I'm taking the long way around with this question. The question I have is this, Janice. when you would show up and like say, I'm going to use an example you use, like say cook dinner. Let's say you're going to cook dinner out there while you're out there. Mm-hmm. Would you notice that maybe some of the animals or even Sasquatch himself goes, oh, you're cooking dinner. Maybe a little bit's for me.
Oh, definitely. I had this one investigation with a large group of people, real well-known people in the field of, I want to say big feet so bad now.
Bigfoots?
So, we're actually over there in Fort Mountain, Georgia when this happened. And one of these real popular Bigfoot guys that was on Finding Bigfoot, he ends up in his tent now. He baked some bacon in the morning and left the cast iron skillet full of bacon grease in his tent.
Oh, no.
And of course, like we're going off the next day or whatever, or that later on that day, we come back to base camp and daggum, there's a mama bear and 3 cubs ripping his tent apart and everything. And we're just like, what's going on? Oh my God, freak out. The ranger had to get over there with some bear spray and like sprayed bear spray. And then the wind changed and all that bear spray came back towards the whole group of investigators. And we were just dying for like an hour. So yeah, it will get a lot of attention for coyotes, bear, goodness, even wolves. I mean, if your area has wolves or wild dogs, you'll get that. But yes, Bigfoot loves to come through your area at night when you're sleeping, especially. A lot of times with the way I investigate, I would stay up till like well after 3, it's almost 5 before I'm going to bed. And so it'll be a very short window of opportunity where these creatures could come in, maybe in just like an hour before the sun comes up. And boy, they will come in, and it's terrifying. Because, being a female and a single female for all these years, doing this with my all-male crew or whatever, my tent's over here and there's their tent. Mm-hmm. Well, when you're hearing something come through your campground while you're in a little thin tent by yourself, okay, it's so intimidating because there's been plenty of times where I would hear the Darth Vader breathing, because that's what they do. They come in, and it's so creepy when you're hearing that at your head, wakes you up. You just went to sleep, and you're by yourself, and you think to yourself, "Oh my goodness, I'm this big, tough Bigfoot researcher, and I'm too scared to even open the flap of my tent to see what that is," And so a lot of times you do have like your audio going, you got your camera, but you might be just absolutely teetotally scared to look outside because of the things you're hearing and your tent getting hit, your foot getting grabbed through the tent, those are things that are absolutely terrifying. And so a lot of people, where's the pictures? Well, okay, you be in a tent by yourself, get your foot grabbed, hearing Darth Vader breathing, and you see if you're worried about a camera getting footage, so you do have to fight the fight or flight response. And sometimes it's extremely intense, especially if you're getting bluff charged or you hear trees getting knocked down for like a territorial display.
Yep.
And so those are some of the things that you have to get used to. And one of the things my daughter, who doesn't exactly understand why I do this, she goes, "Mama, you're going to end up dying in the woods looking for Bigfoot."
Oh, no.
And I'm telling you, there's been a couple of times, when I'm out there that I've thought, "Oh my God, it's true. I'm going to die in the woods looking for Bigfoot." But I'm like, hey, at least I'll die doing something I love doing.
You're not going to die looking for Bigfoot, I don't think.
I hope not.
No. I would say having read David's book, and I think having, the amount of experience you have now, Janice, I would say more times than not, is it safe to say that the creature is more docile than angry?
Well, I will say that the ones that come into your campground or around your car, if you happen to be sleeping in your car, now I've done it so many different ways. I've done it in a tent, camping out in a hot spot. I've done it in my truck sleeping, which was actually one of the most scariest things in the truck. But then I was like, okay, if I want to get a visual of these creatures coming in while I'm sleeping, I need to get in a hammock that has a bug screen and do that, and talk about getting over your fear. I mean, that makes it real scary because you're hearing things come up. I mean, I've had coyotes come up to my head while I was in the hammock and just growl at my head, and I've had raccoons jumping on me like a trampoline on my bug guard, and I'm having to knock them off of me, and I've also had a little bitty raccoon reach in somehow into my hammock, grab my foot. I woke up from a dead sleep thinking Bigfoot got me, and I'm like, oh my God. And I kicked naturally, right? And then, your brain kind of wakes up and I'm like, that wasn't Bigfoot. His hand had to be like an inch long, And so you have to kind of get yourself sometimes in the right mind frame. But yeah, when you do hear these creatures come in, you have to process it because you got to know what the area, the local flora fauna is. I'm investigating where there's lots of black bear. So, but I've had instances where when I was asleep, I was woke up by something coming outside of my tent, pushing on my tent, and then also lifting up a tote I had at the very beginning of my tent, where the zip flap is on it was supposed to rain. And so I brought one of those really big tote things to put like a lot of things in, like the bags to my sleeping bags in there so it wouldn't get wet. And so I had that right there on the very edge of my tent where the flap was. And something came up and I could hear it come up. It was the crazy breathing, and you could hear something heavy walking around. And then it picks up my tote, that really large tote, and it gets about maybe, I could tell from the side of the tent, it was like almost at the very top of this tent I had, which would have been like 5 or 6 feet up in the air, opens it up, rummages around in it, shuts it, puts it back down, does it 2 times like that. And I was terrified. I couldn't even, I had my finger on the trigger, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's no way I'm going to get this on film because I'm too scared to even look out the thing to see what that is. And so I've had things like that happen, mimicry, my name being called. Now that one's happened in a couple of states. And, is that spiritual? Is it Bigfoot? Could it be somebody pranking you? Well, I know it wasn't anybody pranking me because I saw everybody that was with us when it was happening in the state of Georgia when that happened. So that's happened like 3 times. Yeah.
Wow.
So when you're getting your name called out, that it takes it to a whole nother level. You're like, what in the world? They know my name. Ooh, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm good with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be good with that at all. Yeah. Okay, I take back what I said. Maybe it's not so docile.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now you did say, do you find that if it's more docile than it is? It depends on where you're at because when I was in Bankhead, the two Bigfoot that are there are not very docile. They don't really like you being there, and they'll usher you out. They'll growl at you. And I'm talking about a growl that will shatter, like almost shatter your eardrums at times. It's a vibrational, you can feel it like you're right up on the speaker at some rap concert with the bass going big,
Really?
And it just goes right through you. And so, yeah, that's what's scary about that.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I actually had that same type growl I heard over in Land Between the Lakes also when I was filming a documentary out there. Heard the same thing out there. And so I've only heard that growl 2-3 times in my whole investigation for 15 years. But I tell you what, that when you experience that, it changes your mind about them being docile, because there's nothing that can growl like that has good intentions.
Right.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Well, all right. Let me ask you this, and then we'll switch subjects here, Janice. When you hear that growl, what keeps you from not from stopping doing this completely? From just saying, you know what, I've had enough. I mean, that growl in itself, if it's as soul shattering as you say it is, what's to stop you from saying, you know what, I think I've had enough. I have enough evidence as it is that this thing is out there. It doesn't have good intentions. If my daughter's really that worried about me, maybe I should take a step back. What keeps you going back for more?
There have been times when I had that little voice inside my head go, don't go no further, because this is no good, you know? And you have to listen to your sixth sense, I guess you'd say, about not going certain areas or in certain caves that I've had those feelings and, you know, don't go any further. And I'm not sure if that's Bigfoot kind of giving you the ESP or if it's your own sixth sense. I really don't know. I think it's more sixth sense or God putting some sense in my head because most of the time, like, yes, it seems to be terrifying and scary, but I've had a sighting to where if this creature wanted to kill me, he easily could have done it and didn't. And chose not to. Okay. And so, yeah, with knowing that, it keeps me coming back because it's such a mystery. And I don't need to try to convince anybody else that it's real because I know it's real. David knows it's real. We're believers because we're knowers. We've seen it. And so I think that eventually science and the rest of society will meet up with us, just like, you know, over 100 years ago. People were talking about these apes in Africa, and people were calling them crazy. There ain't nothing like that, you know. And then just not even, 20 years ago, the bonobo chimpanzee was found. Right. And so there's so many different animals, creatures, probably even human populations that we don't even know yet, that keep themselves away from humans. Because what's the smartest animal on the planet? The one that can hide from humans and not be detected. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Let's change gears here. Again, the name of the book is Pagoda, and it's written by our guest here. And David Eller is our author, our guest here. David, your nephew is a pastor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You're having breakfast or lunch with him in a diner, and he says to you, he's also an enthusiast, a Bigfoot enthusiast, but never really pursued the passion, obviously, with his calling, the fact that there's a lot on his plate as it goes. But he has a theory that he wants to pass to you, and you tell him, well, you know what, you got to put that theory out there. What is this theory that your nephew puts in front of you?
Well, part of it is that it's something that I've thought about for a long time. This is the side B. This is the spiritual aspect of these creatures. Most researchers start on side A. They want these to be North American apes, but it doesn't take long if you're serious and if you're out there a lot before you begin to have the oddball experiences that the side A calls the woo, which is the weird stuff. And I had already begun experiencing that, and he was very much in agreement that these things do have a spiritual aspect. And he and I both now are fully in agreement that these things are physical as long as they're here, but they go somewhere else. And I describe some of that in the Pagoda. Native Americans have always said that these creatures are spirit beings that pass back and forth through realities. And that's what we have both discovered. This is what we've experienced. Yep. And he was just relating some of that to me, and that he was in agreement with that. And He's not quite sure exactly what it is, but I think there's some darkness involved with a lot of this stuff, because they seem to gravitate toward women. And why that is, we don't know. I think it's dark. I think the Russians and Canadian Indians have always said that they will take women. And that seems a bit odd for a North American ape. That seems like something else is going on. And yeah, I just think there's a lot more going on than just a completely physical creature. How do these creatures leave one track? I've discovered a single track, nothing before it, nothing after it. How do they do that? Do they phase in and are physical and then they phase out? I don't know. And I'm the first person to tell you, I don't know what these things are. Yeah. My mind is going certain areas, and I believe Janice has found single tracks. And I've had big game hunters tell me that they have found a series of tracks that just completely stops.
Yeah.
And so I think there's very much a spiritual aspect to a lot of what we're dealing with.
If you had to take a shot in the dark, David, where do you think these things phase out to?
Well, that's the reason I didn't want to go to side B. When I was on side A, when you're on side A, you think everybody on side B is crazy. But you start getting closer to side B and you realize that all of the answers are over on side B. When you're on side A, you still have the questions that the or those who are not convinced have. Why can't we get good pictures? Why do you find a single track? Why do these things seem to just phase out? Well, when you're on side B, now your mind is open and you can talk about parallel universes. That's sci-fi talk. I didn't want to do that, but when you have the experiences we have, you find yourself speaking this way. Portals. I didn't want to talk about portals.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about portals that's on side A. But once you're on side B, I think that there are doorways and portals and openings to other dimensions. That's all Star Trek talk, but I mean, it seems like that's where these things go. There's something, like I say, the Native Americans have always said they pass back and forth through realities. And when some of the stuff that happened in the Pagoda, I reported to one of my Native American friends, Brenda Harris, very famous researcher. She lives on the reservation, and she said, now you know why we talk about these things the way we do. These are spirit beings that a lot of times we don't even talk about them, because it seems like when we talk about them, they manifest. Well, that's not a North American ape. That's something different. So to answer your question, I don't know what to call it, but it seems like there are other realities rather than dimensions and stuff like that. I just call it realities that we can't see. There have been times that these things have been so close to me, I can hear them breathing, I can hear them mumbling. I go out at night, pitch black, and if I turn my flashlight on, there's nothing there. But there was something standing right by me 2 seconds before. Mm-hmm. So I think they phase into other realities. Now, what that is, that's something else. We're going to have to figure out what I mean. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Quantum physics plays a lot into this, and but I will just answer your question by saying other realities, that they are in a different form when they're there. When they manifest here, they're physical, as we know physical, subject to every physical law. They have weight. Gravity affects them. That's why they leave tracks. But how can they stop their tracks? How can they only leave one track? So there's something weird there. So I'm going to say other realities, whatever that means to you.
Sure. Okay. To kind of draw that parallel, we've had Ronnie LeBlanc on the show a couple of different times. His Monsterland books are quite intriguing, quite fascinating. I've had my own private discussions with him, and he's pretty much drawn that same parallel, that these things jump into portals, jump back. They go to some, it seems like some little, I don't know, I don't want to call it a dimension, because they go to some little place that's just to the left, right? That's just... Mm-hmm. It's just, you know, they slide
Yeah,
in and
we
out.
don't have words to describe what we're dealing with.
Right.
That's the thing. Before we can even talk about what these things are or where they go, we've got to come up with the words. We're having the experiences, but we don't have the words to describe. So that's another problem with the language that we talked about earlier.
Right.
But then if you want to if you want to get into the big conspiracy, you know, if you want to get lost in the big conspiracy wheel that is everything, if you want to go into the missing 411 books,
Right.
you look at people who, you know, disappear into nothingness or end up, you know, stuck in the middle of something or
Yeah.
you know, you see one shoe over here or one half of a person over here caught in the middle of something, you know, it
Right.
seems like they're being, you know, dropped from this dimension into another dimension and stuck in between dimensions. And you ask, how do they get there?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of missing people, especially in national parks,
Yes. Yeah.
that I think have been taken. Now, where they've been taken, I don't know. You know, one of the classic stories is that a Bigfoot creature threw a rock at me and it landed right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to think that they're not throwing. I think that this is exactly what has been described in poltergeist activity, where things just manifest out of the air and drop.
Yeah.
That seems to make more sense a lot of times when they're talking about the situation than a creature throwing a rock. Because if you throw a rock, you've got that trajectory and it should continue to roll. A lot of times they don't do that. It lands flat right in front of their feet. And again, that takes me right back to poltergeist activity. Now, we are researching Bigfoot creatures, ghosts and hauntings, and UFO experiences with the same equipment. Mm-hmm. And we're having success. Each facet of what we're researching is manifesting itself with those pieces of equipment. Well, that tells me it's all the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's all based in the same area. It's all energy, it's magnetism, it's electrical, it's stuff that we don't even have equipment to measure it. We don't even know the what we're measuring, but we're getting activity. One of our situations, I won't tell you everything about it because there's some problems, but let's just say that we were in the woods, we're hunting hairy giants, and we're talking to these things with EMF meters. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't make sense. If you believe that Bigfoot creatures are North American apes, mm-hmm. how are we talking to them with EMF meters? They're answering. We gave a criteria. If the answer is yes, make the lights red. Wait, if the answer is no, make the lights red. And
don't make the lights red. Just don't do nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, just different criteria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we began to have conversations with these creatures, and they told us exactly what was going on through EMF meters. Now, if you think these are North American apes, then that shouldn't be happening.
Right.
So what were we experiencing out there in the Alabama woods? That's the question, you know?
That's crazy. So much like Ronnie was saying, are you seeing the same phenomena where, and I know you mentioned a little bit in the book where you see or you're in the area of supposed Sasquatch sighting and you look up and there's a UFO?
Right. Yeah. That's what I call a hitchhiking phenomenon. Why is it that you may be hunting lake monsters and see a Bigfoot, or you may be hunting Bigfoot and see a UFO, or you may be hunting ghosts and see a lake monster? Those things, that's too coincidental. Those things shouldn't be happening at the same time if they are as rare as what we think they are, those experiences. But when you have them and they're coupled and tripled together, there again, that seems like all of this is coming out of the same hole. Now, what that hole is, I don't know. That's the weird part. You know, when I first began researching these things, when I was 8 or 9, I tell the story in the book, and I'm reading Reader's Digest, and I read about the Patterson-Gimlin film. And then the next article that I read was in Ripley's Believe It or Not, True Monsters and Demons, and it's an article about the Patterson-Gimlin film, and the last paragraph talks about a creature, a hairy giant seen dropping out of the bottom of a UFO. That was the first time that I saw that there's like mixing of the weirdness. So how, why did that happen? So this has always been, and the Native Americans will tell you that it's all the same thing. It's all mystery. And that's why I'm in it. I want to answer questions, and it just happens that a lot of people are interested in what I'm interested in. And like we were at the Goblin Fest a couple of weeks ago, and I sold out of books. So there's a lot of people wanting to know about this stuff, and I'm here to tell them everything I know. I don't know everything. I don't know anything. I'm the first to tell you I don't know. I just don't know, but I will tell you what I think I know.
And what you've experienced.
Yeah.
You get out in the woods and you're investigating. And one of the most common things that I've seen out in the woods, whether I'm out in Tennessee, I think the only place I didn't see it was out in Colorado when we was out there. But I see orbs, like really weird light phenomenon. And these are like in times when it's like super cold. So it's not glowworms. It's not like some kind of strange fungi on a tree. It's not fireflies or swamp gas, and but you're seeing these things flying around, changing colors, moving in weird trajectories like ball lightning wouldn't do.
Right.
And so you're just like, what in the world is that? And I think that it's that energy the spirit world has that you're actually seeing manifest. And I will say that there's been times when me and my colleagues were out in a local, in our habituation site in Bankhead, as well as in North Georgia. And we were hearing something just coming through the woods. I mean, oh my God, we're going to see it. It's about to get real, because huge thing coming at you in the woods. And then all of a sudden it just stops about 100 feet away. And we're like, okay, we're going to see it. We're going to get it on film right now. We got everything just going, cameras, GoPros, cell phones, everything. And then all of a sudden, all we're catching are orbs. And we're just like, what's that about? And
orbs have always been associated with ghostly activity.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that there's a whole lot that we have always said ghost. We just lump stuff as ghost. I think a lot of it is Bigfoot activity.
Yeah.
Because they disappear when they want to disappear.
Mm-hmm.
They make sounds. That's why every community has a haunted woods. When you were growing up, you probably had a haunted woods in and around your neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't think it's haunted. I think that there are Bigfoot activity going on. And, she's talking about these crashing and weird sounds, these things coming. I had the same thing at the Pagoda site. I would walk in and it would sound like the entire forest was coming down. I'm looking right where it's coming from. There's nothing happening. How do they do this horrible crashing noises? There's no leaves flying. There's no limbs. Are they affecting your mind? Are they putting that into your head? I don't know, but multiple times I've had what I call crash responses. And my nephew was with me one time, and it was freaking him out because huge, horrible. It sounds like the entire forest is coming down, but nothing is happening. You're not seeing anything. So it's all ghostly, weird monster. I say I hunt monsters. That's what I do, and maybe one of these days I'll have answers. Maybe we'll come up with the answers. I don't know, but that's...
I want to say something about what he was talking about, having all those crash responses. I have seen the trees fall with something not doing it. Like, what in the world? What's making that tree fall? And I know trees fall in the forest, but over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
and just and then you get hit by rocks and stuff. And and you can see the rocks coming at you. Now, he's saying that sometimes they, want to manifest them and fall right in your lap. No, I've seen the trajectory where these rocks are being thrown in our direction. And, that and thrown at the tent, and recently, let's see, what was that, back in November of last year, staying in a tent where something was peeking in, opening the flap, hitting the side of the tent, throwing acorns and rocks at the tent all night long.
Yeah, that's part of that earlier story I was telling you. We're not comfortable in telling that entire thing anymore because it's a long story. But
Okay.
yeah, we're not at liberty to tell everything that happened. But yeah, those
Right.
2 nights were 2 of the craziest, most bizarre nights. That's when I saw a huge shadow figure go across the front of a tent, and yeah, there was a lot of craziness. I'll probably write about that.
We got a lot of hits on our EMF, and he has what's that other thing you have for ghost hunting?
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it.
The magnetometers.
I have a lot of ghost hunting equipment that deals with magnetism and stuff, and we were dealing with a lot of that night. So
that's what. So this guy, the first time I met him, he's going around the base camp. So, doing like a perimeter walk. And I'm like, who's this guy? Like, that's the kind of stuff I do, And so the first thing I thought when we got activity that night was, oh man, here's my EMF. I'm going to see if I get some blips on this, because in the past, I've always had to where if I'm getting Bigfoot activity, I also get blips on my EMF, and you can also get disembodied voices. It's so weird, which takes it into a spiritual realm. So I grabbed mine, and he goes, well, I'm going to go grab mine too. But he upped me. He grabbed like 3 of his. Like, oh my God, who's this guy? I need to know who that guy is. Yeah, and then, well, we were friends for goodness about 6 months until June, and so June we took it to another level.
Right on.
Yeah.
Let me. I want to drop a theory here on you real quick, and then we'll start to wrap up here. And that's this: you mentioned the apportation, dropping rocks and whatnot, and different things happening. But then something dawns on me. You mentioned haunted woods and things being mistaken for ghosts, things being mistaken for one thing or another, but yet orbs are the one thing that everything has in common. They're just these energy signatures. So I want to hit you with this theory, both of you, and I want you to just ruminate on it for a second. And that's this. Energy may be the raw form, or the orb may be the raw form, but then that energy could change into anything or create an illusion for us to look at, right? So we're out in the woods. We don't know whether Sasquatch has a physical form. We assume it because we look at it, but no one's ever touched one, right? We've never recovered a body. We don't have one to put on display. We've never recovered a ghost. We don't have anything to put on display. We've never recovered an alien or put one on display. Supposedly the government has one, but we don't have one, right?
Right. I believe that for all of those that you just said, I believe that the government absolutely does have, this evidence, and they know. But, as far as like plain people like us, that's being kept from us.
Right. So we don't have either or, but could it be that the thing that these 3 things have in common is maybe that this little orb can change forms and become all 3 of those things at the same time? Maybe that this orb secretly is coming from this dimension, coming to this plane, changing its form into one or all 3 of those things, and then presenting itself.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. That's kind of what I was saying. It's all based in the same thing. It's all in the same mix, because I think it all boils down to dark energy in my world and in my research. And I have no problem with that theory. That I do think that's a very good analysis of what's going on, because, like I say, we're dealing with all 3 of those areas with the same equipment, and everybody's getting success with their equipment. So I think it's all the same basically.
I want to throw you a quote, and I just want your opinion on it here, David. I read a news story yesterday, and it's something that Nathaniel Gillis. I've had him on the program before, demonologist. He said to me before, he believes that and he's had in his dealing with aliens before, he's had an alien that's actually shown itself to be a demon. And
no, I totally believe that.
Okay.
I think that it's all demonic.
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't want to get into that because that
Sure.
opens so much other stuff. But yeah,
Right.
I think if I'm the son of a Baptist minister, I was raised in the Bible. I was able to research a lot of stuff because my dad had a huge library, and as I grew up, I read and researched a lot of stuff. So I have no problem in saying that I don't subscribe to the theory that there are other intelligences out there. You know, given the physics of space travel, given the time involved, all this, I think it makes much more sense to think that what we call aliens are ultra-terrestrial, not extraterrestrial. They are part of that dimensional thing that we talked about earlier, the other reality. I think they're very much from here. And it explains to me why, you know, when I was a kid, I bought every UFO book. And all of the supposed pictures of UFOs looked very much like the UFOs that were in movies of the time. Mm-hmm. And gradually, as our intelligence changed, the UFOs changed with it. So now some of those obviously are fake, but if we're describing these old-timey looking craft in the 50s, and we're describing much more advanced craft in the 2000s, are the aliens changing because of our intelligence, or is our intelligence changing because of the aliens? It's mirrors within mirrors and wheels within wheels. But I think it's all based on this demonic world. Yeah, I absolutely do.
So let me bring this one step further. So the story comes out this past week. Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out and says she believes that aliens, demons, one and the same, right? Based on her upbringing, which isn't far from the truth, having dealt with Nathaniel Gillis and him saying the same thing, that he's had the same experience. I throw in with that theory. It feels true to me. I don't believe that aliens are coming down to save us anytime soon. I don't think they're going to take our nuclear stockpile away and everything's going to be sweetness and light. I don't think that's happening. That doesn't feel true to me. Now, with that in mind, again, I say, you know, that these little orbs show up, they slide in from another dimension. Maybe they can show themselves to us in different forms. I'm going to take it one step further with you. Do you think that maybe this thing that you two are chasing in the woods is of a similar evil ilk?
We differ on that. I do. I think that there is more of that about it than we want to admit. Why would a creature want to steal women? That takes you back to Genesis when they talk about the Nephilim. The Bible's full of giants, okay? We just don't know. We don't teach that, okay? When Moses and the Israelites went into Canaan, the spies said, we can't take these people. We are like grasshoppers to them. And that wasn't an exaggeration. That was the way they saw. They were small compared to these giants. So I do think there's a lot of darkness involved in this. What the level is, I'm not sure. But
and we can keep it on a surface level here, David. We don't have to get deep with it, but it's
not Harry and the Hendersons. That's what I'm saying. It's
right.
Not Harry and the Hendersons. Okay. I think it goes a lot deeper and a lot weirder than that.
Okay, Janice, I'm curious as to what you think.
Well, I will say that over the 15 years, if this thing had nefarious intentions, there were numerous times in the very beginning when, you know, I was trying very stupid things about, you know, my team would be, oh, you're the only girl. We're going to put you out in the woods by yourself. And we're going to have, like, you know, cameras around the perimeter, and we're going to see if something comes up. You know, I never got abducted. I've been in tents. I've been in by myself, you know, and I've been in hammocks by myself, you know, in local hot spots where you don't get any sleep because you hear these things running around. You think it's them things. You don't really know, you know. I'm going to put that out there too. Mm-hmm. but when, you're hearing your name, you're hearing all of these crazy vocalizations, calls, you're hearing, of course, the tree knocks, and you're like, oh, come on, please just let me go to sleep, I think that if it was evil, there's been times when I felt like there were evil things, but I think it's just like humans. Some are good, some are bad. And that's just the way I want to look at it. Maybe that's because I want it to be both good and bad. I don't know if I'm humanizing it and putting my own wants and desires on it. I'm not really sure. I really don't know, but I will say that there's been times when in the past, I did stupid things that they could have taken me and they chose not to. When I had my, sightings, when I see them look out behind trees and stuff, there's been times when they could have done some really bad things to me, and they chose not to.
Well, maybe you just weren't acceptable.
Yeah, maybe.
They're not going to steal everybody.
That's true.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there'd be no women left in the world.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that maybe you didn't have what they were looking for.
And see, I will also tell you that there was one time we were in an investigation in where the Moon-Eyed people were at Fort Mountain, Georgia, North Georgia again. And I kept on seeing something running through the woods so fast. And we're seeing orbs coming up, like kind of just almost like coming up to us and then backing off. And it was just so weird that night. But I kept on seeing something running through the woods at like such a high rate of speed, because we were sitting in the middle of a gas pipeline on top of a mountain. And there's woods on the left and right of us. And I'm like, guys, I'm seeing like something flying through them woods. I don't know what I'm seeing. But there's no way even a deer could run as fast as I'm seeing what's run through this. Deers can run pretty fast. So I was just like, okay, nobody's really taking me seriously, because they're not seeing it. And, they've got a FLIR. They're not picking nothing up on the FLIR. And I'm like, okay, that's it. So I go face down and I'm looking through the woods like that with my face, looking through, using my periphery, because it's so black out there, dark, and I never saw anything come running up to me. Never heard it, which is really weird. But all of a sudden, my beanie, because it was like 30 degrees that night, my little beanie I had on my head got knocked off my head 10 feet behind me. I freaked out. I was just like, okay, I got touched. I don't know what it was, And so, your mind's going through, could it be an owl because I had blonde hair and it thought it was a rabbit or something coming to get me, No, I didn't hear the that you would hear from an owl traveling in the woods, because I've heard those go over me on investigations before. You can see them, you can hear them. And sometimes you can feel them too with the flaps of the wings, because they got such a large wing spread. But I didn't get ripped up by some talons. I didn't hear anything running. But I tell you what it felt like. It felt like when you're a little kid and you're playing hide and go seek with your brother, your sister, your cousins, and somebody gets you and you didn't realize that they're getting you. They hit you in the head so hard about knocks you out. That's what I experienced. And at the time, my hair was super, super long, all the way down to my waist. Mm-hmm. And so I had one of those beanies that you have up here at the top where you can put your little ponytail to the very top of it.
Yep.
And so that sucker was on my head good with a lot of hair weighting it down. And that, whatever it was, knocked me so hard that it knocked my beanie off 10 feet. And the investigators behind me saw it. They did not see a creature, just like I didn't see it, didn't hear it, but they saw my beanie go fly off my head 10 feet. Now, what in the world did that? And I have no idea, but it had to be something in the spiritual realm that could, but this wasn't a local Bigfoot hotspot. So was it Bigfoot? Maybe. Was it spiritual? It definitely was. So I was left with more questions than answers. And by the way, at that time when that happened, I was done investigating. I went straight to base camp, went back to my tent. I said, I'm taking a Tylenol PM. Nobody talked to me until the morning. Because I was just like, freaking out. I was like, okay, you hear your name. But when you're getting hit, like, why was it me that it hit? I don't even know. Whatever.
It was drawn to you.
Well, I was watching it.
Yep.
I was watching something fly through the woods. I mean, it was just like, zoom, 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 zoom. There was like 3 or 4 other women there. They could have got them. But for some reason, they're like, oh, look at this dumb girl on the ground. Like, you are made differently.
Well. It's
I was face down on the ground, like looking at it, and they're probably like, "Look at her,
You're already in position."
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, she's. I don't know.
Yeah, we were reading some information on a Native American customs about Bigfoot the other day, and David, you want to tell them about what?
Well, it was just that I forget what tribe it was, but their tradition was that Bigfoot tribes train their young ones to get in front of you and wave their hands without being seen. That is their tradition.
Really?
So the fact that you've got Indian tribes who are saying these things can become invisible right in front of you doing this, but that's the way they become higher up in the tribe of Bigfoot creatures. You have to do, that's your rite of passage, to be able to stand in front of a human, wave your hand in front of their eyes and not be seen. So that's an odd tradition, and it goes right back into what we're talking about.
Right.
Invisibility.
Right. Yeah.
So whatever creature hit me so hard that knocked Beanie off 10 feet behind me, wasn't heard, except before that when I saw something flying through the woods. I guess they got major street cred from their Bigfoot clan. That was so terrifying.
Counting coup.
Yeah.
It's a version of counting coup there.
Yeah.
So, you got cooed.
I got cooties.
You got cooed.
Oh, God.
Not cooties. You got cooed. You got
circle, dot, dot.
Yeah. You got introduced to the silent hand of the Bigfoot cult is what you got.
Right. There you go.
And it wasn't gentle. It was not gentle.
No, it wouldn't be. No, it wouldn't be.
See?
Exactly.
Yeah. In fact, it ripped some hair of mine out. Like, there was hair attached to my beanie,
Ouch.
It hurt so bad. I was done, boy. I was just like,
Right.
But yet, you came back for more, Janice.
Yeah, because I don't know. I guess, like you said, I'm made different.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, you've got to be made differently to be a good monster hunter, for sure.
And not hightail and run.
People say, how can you go out there at midnight with no flashlight and not be afraid? And you just got to move beyond all of that.
Yeah.
And if I die happy. That's the way I look at it.
That is one way of looking at it. That's for sure. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we've come to the end of the program. Again, the name of the book is The Pagoda. David Eller is there it is right there. If you're watching on video, The Pagoda. David Eller is the author of that wonderful book. And we have a link in the description of this program, so you can go ahead and you can pick it up. Janice, Nolan, David Eller, I want to thank you both so much for being on today. And
thanks for having us.
Yeah,
we appreciate it. Have us back anytime. We're just scratching the surface, man. I'm telling you, we're so much craziness.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll have to catch up again and catch up on some of your other exploits, because it sounds like you're just getting started.
Sounds great. Yeah,
absolutely.
We want to be back.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both. Folks, we're at the end of the week. That means, we're already past Halloween. We're on to Thanksgiving now. We've got, let's see, high school football is wrapped up. We're on to hockey season now, and we're on to some other seasons. Church festivals are starting to wrap up here, but we got other things that are going on. You've got cleaning that needs to be done at home. You've got disabled and elderly people in their houses that need help. So here's the thing. Be a light in someone's darkness this weekend. Go volunteer to help the disabled and elderly, maybe in your own family, maybe in your neighborhood. Maybe you have some friends out there that need help. Go be a light in someone's darkness this weekend. Take a little time out and go help others. That's just a message from your friends here at Darkness Radio. Reminder that, of course, the iPhone 17 is out and the other iOS 26 devices are out right now. That means that Darkness Radio's Apple app, probably needs to be updated. If you haven't updated it already, check your devices. Make sure that your Darkness Radio Apple apps are updated. make sure that that's done as well. If you're listening to the show and you're not watching it on video, it's easy. You just go to YouTube. The Original Darkness Radio is there. You can watch the show there. Your favorite shows that you've listened to and you want to watch, you can just go there. Make sure you like and subscribe when you do that. Or just go to darknessradioshow.com, pick the show that you'd like to watch, and you'll see the video above the audio right there. Your video and audio are all in one place at darknessradioshow.com. So please join us over there. And remember, like and subscribe after you've seen the video there. Like I said, folks, that'll do it for this week. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for continuing to listen and watch us every single week. Again, if you love the show, rate and review us. Give us a great review if you would, please. A 5-star review is appreciated. And be sure to tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a phone. I know that's a joke and a bad one at that. It's a bad dad joke. We'll see you next week for more of the best in paranormal podcasting. Thank you so much for being with us. This is Darkness Radio.